Welcome, everyone. I'm with Howard Bamsey, who is the chair of the Global Water Partnership since January 2019. Very welcome to you, Howard, to the network meeting 2020 of GWP partners. Let's start chronologically. Let's start talking about last year before we move into this year. Can you please share some personal reflections on the network and since you joined as the chair of GWP?
Yeah, well, I've been here in this role now, I guess almost for 2 years, but it seems like about 5 minutes, partly because this year we've all been in one place, but also because the network is so extensive and so impressive. And I'm still very much in the learning role and learning mode and being impressed. I think the reach of our network is unique. There is no other organisation in the water sector. There is no other format in the water sector which reaches so many people and so many influential people who can have a real impact on water management. And that works for all of us as partners because we can reach one another and we can exchange our views about how things have worked or not worked or what processes have been successful or unsuccessful. And we can calibrate those to our own circumstances within our place in the network. But it also works for our stakeholders because they have access to that whole reach of GWP. And it's very interesting that other organisations understand that our reach is unique. Other parts of the water sector and beyond the water sector to other institutions, such as, for example, the Green Climate Fund, who told me back in 2019 that they wish that there was a GWP in every sector because they need that reach and convening power that GWP can maintain and uniquely can maintain. And I think there are a couple of examples of how that's worked and how we've managed to find common themes in the network and use our own resources to bring the network to a different point. The most obvious to me is the Green Climate Fund, where we've now been nominated, been agreed, been accepted as a full partner in assisting countries in their readiness activities. Readiness is a GCF program that is unique, and I think uniquely valuable in that it provides predictable, steady capacity building support more or less permanently, and nobody else does that. And we're now an implementing partner in that process, and we got there by bringing the network together, exchanging ideas, bringing GCF people to the network to make clear what the GCF role was, and then on our own resources, involving many different countries, many different partners and within the GWP network, and generating support within countries for that role. Now, at the moment, we have a limited role, but I think that now we're established, we'll be able to take that forward and use it more broadly. And I do think for GWP purposes in particular, Readiness is a wonderful program. It offers many opportunities, and I hope that through the network, we can gain those opportunities, supporting all of those who are part of our network, but also more broadly supporting countries to achieve what they want to achieve in improving water management. I think also the work we've done in our SDG program has been very useful with UNEP or UNEP DHI, and we've managed to to show that country water partnerships are very effective mechanisms, and that's helped country water partnerships through the network. Not yet as many as I'd like, but or any of us would like, but around I think just checking, about 60 countries are involved, but what we're working in 10 countries essentially to show that GWP can really help countries improve not just their water security, but bring the issue of water, or recognise the centrality of water in the development process, particularly in the context of the threat of climate change.
Thank you, Howard. So if we move to this year, as we all know, the world changed this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, and this year is also the first year of the implementation of GWP's new strategy, mobilizing for a water secure world. And one of the topics of this network meeting is also about the impacts of COVID-19 on water resources management. So what are your thoughts about GWP's network and work during this time that we live in at the moment?
It's been obviously a big challenge to GWP to maintain the exchange within the network. And we've had to develop new ways to do that. And we've used the same techniques that others have used and that we're using right at this moment. And that's been pretty successful, I think, in enabling our exchange to continue. In some ways, at some points, we've managed to, from my climate change background, I would say we've managed to adapt effectively so that we can be more productive than we were beforehand in some respects. But we've got to, I think we've got to make sure that the momentum that we see normally generated from in-person meetings and from the exchange in third-party meetings, in big international meetings where we're continually involved with one another and beyond the water sector with others who can help us. That's more of a challenge, I think, and we've got to put a lot of emphasis on maintaining those relationships and the momentum that they establish. I think we do face challenges in dealing with our funding partners, for our financing partners, for example. And we had a financing partners meeting this week. I think it went very well because we're facing those challenges, and so are those who support us. So I think as long as we recognise that this is a challenge, it takes us out of our comfort zone. It won't be there forever, but that meanwhile we've got to put a lot of effort and emphasis into maintaining the exchange in a very live way. Then we can deal with the COVID challenge, the COVID threat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Howard. That's encouraging to hear. So as we enter into the network meeting 2020, so do you have any words for our partners? Do you have any message or call to action?
I think there's a real burden on us to make full use of our partnership opportunities. As I said at the beginning, GWP is unique. There is no other organisation around the world that has this reach in the water sector, and actually probably very few in other sectors. We can offer something that the water sector generally lacks, and that is a coherent view and vision of where we want to go. We have in the water sector a proliferation of small organisations, of sometimes contradictory agendas, sometimes aligned agendas that aren't recognized as such. In other words, confusion and fragmentation. And I think GWP can be a node for coherence, for building coherence in the water sector. I'm hopeful that in the next 12 months, before our next network meeting, that partners will begin to see some of the appearance of greater coherence within the water sector, where we can strengthen our voice as those who are focused on water management, and regulation and governance, and that we can by becoming more coherent and by strengthening our voice, we can attract stronger support from those who have not thought of the water sector as having the key role that it, of course, does.
Thank you. And Howard, I also know that gender issues are close to your heart. Maybe you want to say a couple of words on that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of aspects in which, I mean, we've talked about ways in which GWP is unique, and I guess the most obvious is that reach around the world. But amongst international organizations working in water in particular, I think we have an emphasis on the significance of gender in water management that others probably don't have. And that's not just it's not just the generic gender issue. It reflects the reality in many places where women and children are differently affected by the challenges to water use and to water management, and the different roles that they often have. So for us to stay centrally concerned about the role of gender in water management, I think is really important everywhere. And I think it is another unique aspect of GWP. And as we've seen, it's actually because we have that genuine commitment reflected right through the network, it does identify us as the organization that can help those who are concerned about improving gender equality come to us. And second, I think our focus on youth is vital. And that's for all the obvious reasons. And I just want to note that the steering committee has recognized that in this year, and that we have now established a full steering committee position, not just an observer role, but a full steering committee position for a youth representative. And we expect that somebody will take up that role in December. So both on gender and youth, I think GWP has much to offer others in water and others beyond the water sector.
Great. Thank you so much, Howard, for those words, and thank you for your insight and thoughts. We close here and return to Stockholm, and over to you, Peter.